I'm writing one already.
Good. Let me split screen. Ready?
Yeah.
Cool. Plan. The executive branch of the United States should end military aid to the Republic of Uganda. Advantage is Museveni. Military aid to Museveni emboldens and oppressive security regime Kankande 18. Museveni requests opposition assistance. U.S. Museveni's regard human rights abuse, including torture and arbitrary detention. Museveni has denied due process because several restriction on press freedom and connected motive risk corruption. He is recently announced 8,000 troops in Yemen. Many troops have been trained by U.S. military, use sophisticated communication equipment, U.S. influence over human rights violations back to U.S. funds. Continued Museveni oppression creates an explosion of unrest and instability. ICJ 17. Discontent is growing against perpetual rules of the president connected to rely on patronage coverage among the security services and initiating reforms that serve to reverse the economy deterioration for services among both communities and the state. Should opposition for key and security services will result in aggressive approaching as part of social support. This would make Uganda less comfortable. This will become more difficult to manage. Police like political situation would be possible to contain military aid. Entrenches Museveni's regional militarism. Fisher 15. U.S. relations with Uganda have revolved around oppressive levels of military retirements used by Sheriff regime to particularly about liberal state political politics. Kampala's invasion of the DFC in 1990 was only condemned Uganda military family. In southern states, that's supported by Washington. Kampala nevertheless continues to insist in the military and neighboring state pursuit of enemies. Washington provide legislative financial support for EU-led Michigan, the LRA, the securities and strategies that rely on a former fundamental securitization tried by a regime to dissolve. Each of the four regime considers seeking which way under the United National Security also represents threats to security. The Museveni regime is more than 10% of the ADF. Adventurism is destabilizing imperial Epstein. 14. Museveni made Africa way more dangerous. Now Uganda back Rwanda rebels invasion set off the genocide. Uganda troops looted some 10 billion. Uganda's army taking sides of South Sudan officers. And Amazon having constantly gusted every box from up. Ugandan aggression causes Great Lakes tension, breeds regional war. Kagera 18. The geopolitical situation in Great Lakes region characterized by damaged relationships on the region of another conflict. 72 people were killed and renewed, finding Rwanda's beef out security of the border following clashes between Rwanda and DRC forces. Country damaged relation between Rwanda and Uganda. Could play out the DRC, one of the worst conflicts in the Great Lakes. From Kigali, Uganda supporting the NRC. RNC couple has made denied the allegation the is encouraged by Uganda and the DRC because he watched the tense political situation. Several local observers in the region heading off the pleasure and stability of the Uganda solvency. 1. Cutting the de-escalates tension without villain. Epstein 18. Uganda such a foreign agent over that MRN classified military advance alluded to from the 70s repressions as spending like all trenches. China's interest from the economic and military of the United States struggles by former Open African dictators in China has to its reverse causal and significantly decreases militarism. DeWall 15. A high defense budget enables him to deliver with national security and significant funds political budget. The war president opportunities that the president turned to their advantage to expand military expanding this particular limit because the item is regular budget is subject to close to security. As found many groups for permanent military supplies to be converted within fighter purchases. John Corbin, their social becomes so endemic one. A third of the army are actually missing military corruption. Became a street strategy, absorbing a huge increase in defense budget money was not going to the army. It is financing supported by the U.S. inflated difference budget, which reached the wheels of the patronage machine. And 3. Military aid creates international cover for expansion of Museveni's power. Anderson and Fisher 16. General permission to counterterrorism agendas permitted the regime to strengthen Uganda security services of the international world. The Kabbalah regime directs a wide range of legitimate prosecutors, farming, military aid, and funding and provision of government permitting. Government's indispensability cuts the legend and administrative reputation of Western agencies who are the home to apply pressure on the Museveni state revenue government's law into international authority military base off its power. Officials in Washington admitted feeling too reluctant to push issues too hard for fear of jeopardizing its commitment in Somalia. The dynamic having averted gender sensitive detail for the regime is capitalized on this type of event. 4th, the plan's key verification is impossible with Museveni. McCormick 16. Given the red and lawless environments of the Uganda troops return the operative possible to know whether human rights have been violated. The United States never taken a public stand on the result of human rights violation by the military. Military that had leverage of the United States comfortable able to intervene and Museveni empower their boundaries their power suppression. The regional wars are devastating, ignoring them as anti-black Westland. 14. The number of deaths due to conflicts in Africa has time to seal down the year. The rest of the world Russia defensive situation. Africa is like 80% of conflict related deaths, not even greater than 10% of coverage by mainstream media and outlets completely to be the worst of racism. And I've suffered no platform how to before these conflicts have dominated the agenda. People in opposition to respond to the comparison military that is consistent to attract attention. These issues need to put in front of people in a position to respond. Countries in the West Africa and influence and media attention to ignore the conflicts, but conflict analysis like news a little. Understanding how aid hinders Africa and not being addressed by mainstream media and legislation to result of a deliberate choice in their position to respond. Skip the next card framing. The standard is maximizing expected well-being. 1. No actor mission distinction. Choosing to omit is an act in itself. People psychologically decide not to act. Being presented with the affirmative creates a choice between two actions, neither of which is no mission. 2. No intent foresight distinction. We foresee a consequence that becomes part of our deliberation, which makes it intrinsic to our action. Since we tend to happen, for example, if I throw this timer at your laptop, the intent of my action is to only throw the timer at your laptop, but if the laptop closes on your fingers and hurts you, and I foresee that consequence, then I'm responsible for that consequence because it was part of my psychological deliberation. 3. Only consequential is the same degrees of non-risk. I break a promise to meet up for lunch and inside of that breaking a promise to take a dying person to the hospital. Only consequence of breaking the promise. The second one is much worse than the first. 4. Utilize lexically power threats to bodily security and life precode the ability for moral actors to effectively utilize and act upon other moral theories since they're in a constitutive crisis and inhibit the ideal moral conditions with other theories presupposed. 5th, reject consequentialism fails. Arguments A, empirically denied both individuals and policymakers. Theory out effective cause by different analysis, which means that even if decisions aren't always perfect, it's still better than not acting. B, it's theory that functionally nits that everyone knows are silly but skew the affirmative, moving the debate away from the topic and actual full stop debate, killing valuable education. 6, it's phenomenal introspection. It's the most epistemically reliable historical moral disagreement over internal conceptions of morality, such as questions of race, gender, class, and religion, all through the fallibility of non-observational based ethics. Introspection means we value happiness because we can determine that we each value just as I can observe a lemons yellowness, we can make those judgments about happiness and the affirmative's impacts intuitively. Theory. First is the one-air theory paradigm. A, the F gets 6, otherwise it can be infinitely abusive practices, making affirmative impossible. B, it's drop the debater. Short 1-air is irreparably skewed from abuse on substance and time investment on theory. C is no negative RVIs. The 6 minutes to anarchic clubs or counter the description, thus deter 1-air theory, allowing for infinite one to be conceived as via sheer brute force and time spent on theory. Second, RVIs on topicality. 8 points skew. There's no 2AC. Developed carded offense in the 1-air has overcover since the 6-minute turnover is devastating, which incurs into underdeveloped T and NC and overdeveloped in the 8-hour need the RVI to develop good in-depth T. Offense B is reciprocity. T is a unique avenue to the balance of the Afghan access makes T structurally unfair without the RVI. Third, specification is good. A point is stable advocacy. Their term means the affirmative can share definitions that the authoritarian has no unifying literature. Apps don't have a defense of their mechanism, will just default to ludicrously generic claims to win. B, learning to apply generics to a specific affirmative helps critical thinking. It means you're better able to adapt a variety of different situations and think on your feet. Method. Anti-interventionist policy central to leftist organizing. The public imperially checks interventionism, but faces destroys conquering radical action, native isolationism, global expansionism, inextricably linked with racial, gender, and colonial bonds at home, and any opposition unless actively opposed military expansion abroad. May 17. Views is the greatest form of being focused on the women decided to raise any accountability, allowing the president to take more any reason with the help of the global exchange freedom around the TV star, who increasing the military budget by 54 billion. The contemporary has been not nearly confident. The enterprise is very true. When this way fully made upon most Americans, the need for constituent challenge American military and urges the war sentiments because one of the parts of the regime is troops, marine Afghans, and American officers should have the world to find the machinery for bombing. There's repression counterterrorism operation, based bills are likely to astound over to war terrorist costs over college for 50 years, but not over real cost politicians, board of leadership remains very direct interventions to hold military not shield itself from the public. Opposition can come out with moves that look like American. Okay. Cut the card at shield itself from the public.
Where's that?
Yeah.
What did you skip? You skipped that. You skipped the point. Okay. Got it. You. Ready?
Yes.
Let's go to the third piece of solvency and the advantage. Military aid creates international cover for Museveni. Why?
Because right now the 70s told us that his sort of military backing and the ADF is necessary, or not, the Ugandan military is necessary to combat al-Shabaab in the region, particularly in Somalia. That creates international cover because...
Wait, why does that create international cover?
Because Museveni is able to get away with things because when he does something bad, he tells the US, hey, I'm super important to your fight against al-Shabaab, and our military relationship results in us covering for him.
Okay, that's fine. So I guess next question: the McCormick 16 evidence. What verification is it talking about? Like, is it like about where aid gets put, like counter? Etc.
Yeah, and verification for certain processes, like is aid being used to commit human rights abuses? Is the army like properly professionalized, etc.? Metrics by which the United States is like, we'll give you aid, but only if X happens. Our metric for evaluating X is rough with Uganda. I can go through some examples.
No, that's fine. So the impact of the Great Lakes Tension War. Why Ugandan aggression with who?
The DRC and and Rwanda.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see. The one-year theory paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, spec good. Your stable advocacy argument. What is this like? Can you give an example of what a word would look like with it?
Yeah, I think lay debates at NSD and nationals prove why specification is good. The affirmative just goes, we're a general principle. The negative reads some examples, and the affirmative goes, but we don't have to.
Wait, isn't there a difference between defending general principle and defending whole res and like normal means stuff?
And then there are plenty of disadvantages to defending whole res because it would force the affirmative to research burden to cover like 50 countries. Like you want us to read an act with they have a defense of 50 countries.
Okay, that's fine. I guess the method, the May 17 evidence seems to isolate that these are these are metrics to solve leftist organizing in terms of policy proposals. Why does this mean that policy proposals are key?
Well, policy proposals are key because the only, in the context of the affirmative, which is what I'm defending, the only institution with the ability to stop military aid in Uganda is the United States. If organizing is necessary to stop that anti-interventionism, it is not just like policy proposals, but rather anti-imperialist policy. Or
anti-imperialism?
No, being against imperialist policies.
Okay.
The affirmatives like securitization / regional wars are devastating, and our characterization of Museveni and his security relationship with the United States proves that our current stance against Uganda is one that is imperial.
Okay. I guess another question about the May evidence. Why does this isolate that? Well, wait. First of all, why is the U.S. the only one that can stop Uganda?
It's not the U.S. is the only one that can stop Uganda. It's that our current policy is bad and we should stop. It's not like we are the ones that can save the region from Museveni. It's that we have established a relationship with Museveni that is damaging thousands upon thousands of lives, and we are both the United States and Uganda are engaging in actions, and the plan would result in that. Then obviously, if it's just like why did I defend the United States, it's like that's the wording of the resolution.
I 27 seconds. 4:33.
What is the order?
That's 2 the case. Can you move this a little further?
Yeah, just let me put it down. What you gonna have it?
That's 7.
What's your
The 2 then case, bottom, method, theory, advantage, no framework.
I'm ready.
You ready?
yeah?
First off, interpretation, you have to spend all authority review violation, they specify for negative 1 on substance, 52 hours, no generic, 10 seconds, each instruction different than for seconds, split between after they only focus on one means, one is destroyed by front lines, and they have more 10 seconds, semantics, app models will be arbitrary without existential reading, which substance topic out, which is topic based on that people 19 regimes as generic fields, the order tail, test of restaurant until the US on a variety of governments, of course, no kind of thing, not specific matters, more quantum wishes, by the rest of you, we can tell by linguistic intuition, third ground thing, you gotta pick the best list resolution, which score topic, arbitrary, fill out, pigeonhole, generic, specific, advantage for, they'll say pick the ace one least and say that could potentially be abusive, this flat out not being stupid, just if you just fine, FBC, with your charges that can be abusive. Now, fairness is a voter debate is competitive to the concept of evaluation. Now, it's key to an upside of the objective evaluation resolution. John the one theory is points that the AC curves these go the rest of them reverse species. Second, that they encourage one or each means that the reason they get a 7-6 imagination competing interpretations. These points that reasonability is arbitrary, regards arbitrary invention for the judge evaluating around the piece of point is that a collapse. You stop and see if it's whether ranks key differentiation already. Competency point, you get the way that benefit of a reasonability rather against the net benefit of the shell condition comparing officers or basis more logical number one for being fair least a result of independent voter everyone uses winner seconds that they 7 that they get a 7-6 times in 1 area which is can't wonder if I can be using the season when it's at the pure cost will be extremely devastating if they try to go further in the area. They always going to even try it on to show beats that always now the critique. The one is these counters to see the plan which our military aid relies on alternative methods of control results in by political treatment of the full spectrum of power, advancing empirical control of the southern forces hard and negative for. Military strategies confronted by defensive knowledge can only fulfill specific capacity. These special competence knowledge are undercut dominant. Military power finds a disadvantage by estimated contributor. Real force not survive without support population, severe knowledge, trained the dominant power must not kind of searching not only defeat the enemy of the military but also control with social ideological insight. Logical into the US's asymmetrical relationship with Ghana leading vulnerable to guerrilla tactical. Military engagement follow the grace of machine of war and peace. Leads to the last difference between war and peace. Reappears the military strategy bill. Military might not be sufficient limitation. That leads to strategy for full spectrum dominance. Military might be such an ideological control. The theories discovered by power grace and between war and peace and great strategies that makes military civilians compared. Now the historical call on why nations sort of still objective factories to others with the phenotype of black always marked even at least to divide mention European conception man as the root of all parts of the know the new master of the human was harnessed as a task of projecting the colon between mice and non-mice play machine to forgotten heterosexual homosexual the colon was new other to reoccupy all these spaces could survive the institutional structure with the case of this case with the space and others to provide the conditions of Western and to the alternative unfavored engagement and disenchanted found as embracing a non-human status just for the expectation of what it means to be human while power cannot be reduced we can still orient ourselves towards it in a way that is productive only alternatives liberating in the faces of these oppressive structures which are 87 the disenchanted discourse will deserace or would be to deserace system rationalized by setting a cultural heritage rather than a non-present system which would be order of digital unconsciously marking the favor to redefine a new methodological object and object person must be set of human subjects from behaviors that enable auto pieces system discourse system of the human order must function as a cultivating machinery which allows movement energy to dictate behaviors of the human the role of Alice is to deconstruct the Western tradition of the manhood that lends a race that's will 14 Winter's large scale intellectual parties to tables meant for the human to reinvent unavailable genres of the human race comes to define the human in black studies and minorities for little space to reinvent the human structure between culture and biology race relationship figure and masculine it's like a law-like operation which is sustain psychological members and the problem that distinguish human from non-human black studies or by 1960s license eliminati which actually strategies for the world of man service the race cost orientation the environment distribution research all aspects of the man the human structure now the case overview there's 3 links to the case a point is that the conceptual view that possesses human rights is the only way for human to ever be impossibly governed by black pathway to deal with throughout history, which the Afghans possibly proposal, but there will always be a new way for the colony to assert itself in a certain way to make Africa seem more stable or less stable. The rhetoric of the first event is a continuation of this narrative. Second is that there's securitization of Ugandan aggression through Trump paints Africa as a whole point of constant instability, characterizing their states as absent proactive efforts of the United States to make them as a whole. This feels dependence on Western power to determine the African United States govern themselves between the colony. The third point is that the usual framework entire all is the objectivity of what is segregation, which impacts matter, etc., which things that way, which policy should be proposed, which shouldn't, which is leads to a reinterpretation of the colony, which is destroys black without these conditions outweigh the case it feels amounts of necessary coloniality that can be in favor of African powers. Just wait for Western countries to keep control. Same logic that used thousands of young peacekeepers to commit acts against Africa when they thought that they'd be doing their task, but they had a new sense of superiority over the people that they meant to help. Now, the method page. Overview to the method first refer alternative grounding individual activism rather than top-down policy proposal. They compare to better policy execution by carrying out policy to graph between the 8 points that they force you to defend your social EG with the contextualization state action instead of being points that there's always a risk that the policy proposal will still find engagement between certain entities. The second is that frame this as a general method argument means internal defense to one specific card should not apply to all the others unless those indices are also the specific arguments. Now the main evidence overview is that the overview is that they didn't even get through half the card. They don't have all the warrants for international policy within Uganda reasons. That's why they would be able to solve for the dilemma efforts that fail as loose everybody got nothing happens. You don't get a benefit to a second that we still over things like the Black Panther movement still over depending on recognizing blackness as valuable before which will lead to the ways that we deal with anti-imperialist policies, etc., which means that we have the ones able to deal with it independently. This card just says that we need to have enforcement peace talks, etc., within the Trump area because it is important for Trump. It's how policy proposals deal, but that's not a question depending on if that would be the right metric, etc., Just because the U.S. has control of money does not mean that the whole metric for determining is continuing U.S. They need to have a defense of their metric, or they need to propose actions that change the mindset and misuse any. But if they're not able to, it just means that we re-entrench it and independently be out on skill because we change the entire way that people think about the world in that way, which means you definitely don't solve. Now the theory arguments. Okay, I get neutron response to asymmetric conditional values or arms only matter particular instances, which means I need conditional value development. These conditional linear impact, which means it is dependent on neutron response to see if they actually deserve their 1 or 3 depend. All can see that you get a your 1 or 3 should be dependent on the concept of yourself. 1 or a reference to it is also decided by certain theories. Obviously false because you can go between different arguments and also go for W arguments, which means a lot of negative strategy. No RBS 6 minutes is able to go for different arguments. It might be scripted, but deterring 1 or 3 theory is so important because the 2 class is able to go against an RBS or not. RBS are probably needed, otherwise you screw between whatever you able to get off. So you say RBS on top to you the 1 or so enough time to so get off on theory 6 minutes turn on might be able to go for different arguments, but I still have to cover different layers you go for, which is if you need to get the argument additive means you still will rest all it does not matter. They both mathematic fairness, you don't get legalized by different respected arguments, you still advocacy, you can still judge a second CX to prove that you can't get over certain arguments. Also, even if you have different dissets, etc., you get infinite preference, you should be able to be about you say you should learn how to have generics against specific acts, but the onus is on you to make that's the whole purpose around this topic literature. So sustain around a notion that we can debate the topic. If you prevent us from doing it, it means it's not something that you should be able to use to take the rest of the debate. Now, the case. No something, not a single part of the first also setting will stop human rights. It says each is past the level, but then the other planet is permanent. Uganda is nothing gained by reducing targets. So why would they do training programs or work in reducing HRBs? That's software news to allow results to the treatment of military gender urging to access for discipline between the certain human rights being passed by the representation. UN human rights will also have a 3-day training plan. UV is greatly improved by preserving human rights pieces of the management training is to understanding what it means to observe human rights and getting knowledge how to perform it. Musi Bani has been in office for my timer stopped. After not solving you got a military oppression or political oppression, billions of dollars arms have still been put on with me, which means the military radicals also US aid and weapons there. I said evidence about Musi stealing money about development assistance. They don't get internally independent China. Fills in IN 13. China gets more involved in Russia. I'm not going to shoot is hugely important for self-governing countries. They want to stabilize our fights for the economy underpinning the criticism of China as well. I think that they're interested in negotiating vast research. China is a longer undeveloped economy. They have the second largest impact for exploitation of the West. West.
Cool. I'm just going to mark the back real quick.
I read like all causes you got us.
Yeah, I floated. I'm just getting rid of the my doc is in level.
Or keep that to 11.
Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah, we're good. Alright, ready for cross-legs?
Did Rex leave?
I mean, shoot, that's important.
Oh, that's the stuff.
Okay, then he's probably using the restroom or talking outside of that. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
For cross-legs? Alright. What actions are people allowed to take under disenchantment?
Disenchantment is not a way that we take certain actions, but instead a way that we clarify different differences of the color line. So it means that we do not allow the color line to define us in how we make decisions and have power over us in the way that different.
So what does it look like to make decisions without letting the color line define us?
So the color line defining us means we don't look at certain pieces of violence to define certain things using certain symbols to pursue certain policies through them. E.g., like we would just have, e.g., we can just we can pass proposals not based on reasons that something is like military aid being bad as far as that there's a destruction between the black and white binary. There's different justifications for the way.
So how do you get rid of that before? So do you have to get rid of all of those meta structures before contingent decisions can happen?
What do you mean meta?
So you're saying these meta structures,
the color line, right? Like meta structure, like the color line.
Yeah. So you're saying that these structures sort of influence the way we think and will make all actions impossible.
Yeah.
So we have to how do you get rid of all of these structures from our psyches?
Right. So the role of ballot is that this discussion about talking about different Western notions of manhood and different ways that race studies can help you understand those makes you more conscious in the way that you justify those things. Talking about these arguments are reasons that this discussion is valuable.
Okay, so
if
why does
that the discussion of the creed is important, it means that it influences the way that we make.
I understand that the sort of method will influence how we discuss things, but how does that set up like who should win / why the judge should endorse the alternative?
So it's a way that so that just depends on so basically if there's links to the AF, right, and the reasons that's why you embrace the color line, it's just that you can still reach a conclusion of proposing certain policies, right? Like you can still let's say you can still pass healthcare for something, right? It just depends on
if you can do that, then why can't you do the affirmative?
Because it's about the justifications for how you get to that conclusion.
So what justifications of the affirmative do you disagree with? Yes, which ones?
Okay, so just want me to go through all of them.
So human rights, securitization of Uganda, and util. Those are the ones I caught.
No, there's 4. So
what's the fourth one?
The securitization was the second one on case. The first one on case was that the term of human rights and using the human for an impossible black burden on black life that makes Africa seem more unstable.
Wait, where have you read a sort of human is inaccessible to black people-esque?
That's not our argument. The conceptual view
what you just said.
You misunderstood it. The argument was that having human rights, etc., that's the only way to be considered human and the only way to be considered right back on the equal track is an impossible burden for black folk because they've had to deal with it all throughout history. Even if the app policy happens, it doesn't mean that there's a new way that doesn't change the fact that there would be a new way for the color line to insert itself and change the way we view things.
Okay, that's fair. So can if that's the case, then why wouldn't single pair also link to that? Because our explanation was just that we haven't gotten rid of this thing yet, so it would recreate other structures, but you've clearly endorsed single pair. Why wouldn't that also apply?
Okay, that was just a random example. I'm just saying that policy proposals can still happen. It just depends on the justifications and the thought process you go by. E.g., this app would be structured.
Okay, what about endorsing single pair does not go through that same process?
So it's how you get to endorsing single pair. It's the structure and the syllogism of how you get to endorsing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right.
The app starting with arguments about aid to Museveni, about security regimes, human rights violations. Those are the justifications that the critique has problems with.
What card makes the human rights violation claim?
We made an analytic argument with the warrant.
Perfect.
But it's also very well established on the first card of the critique.
Okay. If you're going to use sending over that.
So Tuesday a month.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the order?
Let me send them back real quick. Okay, T, the case starting with the advantage, and then the method page, and then the critique. So, Mr. Hertzig, you know the one and C first went to the case and made the 3 link arguments?
Yeah.
The rest of the advantage responses, I flowed just straight underneath those.
Okay.
Is that how you did it as well?
And
I put the responses to the method on another sheet.
Okay, I'll find you.
Okay. I'll stop when I transition in between the 2.
Okay.
That's how I had it.
Alright.
Because they were all responses to the advantage.
Okay.
A quick question.
Yeah.
So when you're going to case, what are you starting on?
The advantage.
Okay, and then are you going to be underneath that page?
The method, not the
No,
theory
no.
interview. Right.
Just let me order my clothes.
Sorry, can you just say your order again?
Absolutely. The T,
Yeah.
starting with counter then with their interpretation.
Yeah.
And then it'll be the advantage of the 1AC,
Okay.
the method of the 1AC, and then the critique.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alright, great.
Okay. You have the doc?
Yeah.
Cool.
Are you starting straight with a card and then going extend?
The counter and wait, on the where?
Like, are you just gonna read this first and then like?
Then yeah, make arguments.
Yep.
I'm gonna make arguments first and then
Yeah.
the card.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Counter the affirmative may specify a subset of authoritarian regimes. One is topic coherence. Different regimes have different A plans. No one writes about ending all military aid. It's an unrealistic burden on the affirmative. Second is research. They result in they only have to prep one strategy. Only are to have structural incentives to do more specific research. It outweighs its most portable, forces us to understand issues in depth and learn more. Third proposal is untenable because their interpretations are random picks out of regimes and aid specific places. They cause the same debates and verses, which is net worse. The deck has recourse to small amounts of generics, but the F can't read those specifics. There's not potential abuses about the structural incentives of your interpretation. It's empirically proven countries and governments not clearly be singular. Cover 92% of government can have citizens singular. The nature of governments and the main alternative is industry, individual, the trust, speaker of the procession. Semantics debate 1. It's not an absolute side constraint. Only matters preserve the division of ground. The topic provides strength only matters. And empirically non-topic left is proven ideological. Second, wiki solves it all. It's predictable from debate. North still preserve ground. Third, lit solves. This is pretty good. Divides ground is more academic basis for prep and more predictable since the wording committee is pretty horrible. Fourth, subsets all that doesn't go outside the box and topics so it doesn't lead to their offense. The limits in ground debate 1 is functional limits. Topic lit answers common neg arcs angled versus politics. The reason why complete polemics key in case all check back and will only leave a couple of viral affirmative seconds over the over the middle. 1 off on the TOC topic is laughable. 3, you solve ground for controversy over those about specific regimes to set like terror, stability, feeling relations, and other stuff matter because the affirmative completely pulls out 4. I mean, the return my regime is the only one because they haven't read evidence that other regimes exist. No need to arrive on the issue because it's used when I start to the case. American weapons are used against citizens in a part of imperialist project aimed at expanding the U.S. colonialist influence in Africa. MU-70's authoritarian and regional militarism is overlooked because he comes to be carrying out market reforms and war on terror in reality. His regime institutes a brutal crackdown on citizens. Military aid powers are corrupting on the government. The plan solves one is defense budget. Military aid is under far less scrutiny than other aid, which allows MU-70 to divert budgets into funding regime. That's the dual evidence. It is reverse causal and economic aid is an all cause because it is under compared to the greater donor scrutiny goes to a specific program of food. Second is weaponry. Tanks and vehicles are used to control protesters and carry out road military operations in low remote locations. The plan forces MU-70 to moderate its behavior due to equipment uncertainty line by line. The human rights thing is nonsense. We're just saying human rights like not being killed or abused is good, but it doesn't endorse the concept of human. They have to do specific link where it's not securitization, it's the opposite. It says the U.S. form of securitization against Al-Shabaab is bad because it upholds the MU-70 regime and MU-70's colonialism in the first place. UTIL also applies to the K because they have consequential list impacts, and we're just saying that our impacts are bad. We don't have to defend UTIL at large, just contingently in the context of the plan. The case line by line, it is reverse causal that was explained above. The soft power training card, this is a double turn of the creed. It both endorses human rights and says that the training is able to give Uganda in terms of more like sort of random stuff that is better, which endorses their human rights capability and the ability to sort of improve the process that links them into critiquing is what their cross-sex was being perf cons that way. A point, they're like premeditated murder because they knew what they were doing better. They chose to do it. B point is all handles all solvency because they chose to link to the alternative. It means the alternative is corrupted. The arms sales is non-unique because the plan ends those and they have no evidence. China fill in. This card is just about Africa in general, which is also another double turn to the critique because they conceptualize Africa as this whole thing and they securitize it with China filling in. There's nowhere in about Uganda. It's South Africa, which means generic African China fill in. It's exactly what they're linking it to. The method page. Framework, decide whether the plan is a good idea. Anything else just logical decision making since it artificially inflates their offense. The plan is an example of my method, so it's inseparable from the critiques of the links. They only get to weigh the anti-blackness that results directly from the plan, not anti-blackness in toto. It's not grassroots, that's better conceptualization because our framework arguments that the resolution gives us Face's point about whether we should debate over, and the plans provide that education that also straight turns the alternative. Williams 70 to isolate oneself for intermediate isolation. Milton's become avoided with the pressure can be more factored by evaluated context plans analysis, highly sophisticated analysis. There, fiat is an illusory because I was explained above. It's an educational policy, and policy is the right metric because it allows us to explore the nuances of the various forms of military anti-Uganda, what's good, what's bad, and the various contingencies of these things. The critique. I already answered the roundabout with my perfect argument. Let's start on the alternative one. It cannot solve the case. It's just like we should stop thinking about the color line, but that's literally impossible. There's a massive dissent to it because we literally won't be able to do anything because we can't get the color line completely out of our psyche. That was a single pair cross-examination thing. Permutation to both, and to permutation both of the AF can the alt can overcome the anti-blackness and status quo. Then there's no dissent to the permutation. There's a double line. Third permutation to the alt and all the non-competitive parts of the alternative. The top level of the link debate. This is the first part is about combatants, which means we link turn it because it proves that the sort of combatants that we're endorsing right now are the guerrilla things that the United States is investigating. Our current strategy is bad, and the resolution is a negative state, which means it absolutely link turns the critique and the first and second card. The universal subject code is contingently good. It's the best basis for political emancipation. Embracing anti-humanist thought is the basis for atrocity, not the solution. Lester 12. It was not humanists that gave rise to anti-humanist politics. Others we can learn from the humanist universal practical and offer humanism alternatives have the potential even response to the recorded upholding of determinism, upholding rejection could result in actually because of action depending on single positive concept of humanism reserved with contradiction and informed with manipulated rank of possibilities on the potential of the universal allowing but now supervision search humanism. We can always avoid the state. Sometimes the state will interact with us, which means you have to method that to interact, which is turn to the critique.
What was the third argument on limits?
That was that you still have ground. It was impact defense against ground.
And the fourth was what?
As an IB.
Oh yeah, there was no fifth there.
Huh?
There was no fifth.
No.
Oh, what were the net benefits to your limits argument? There was a generic argument. What was the other one?
What do you mean that benefits to limits?
Like, not limits, picks.
Like why the interprets good for pigs?
Yeah.
Because that's an untenable model of debate where the affirmative has an enormous research burden to defend all countries, and the negative and he causes the same debates in reverse.
Okay, wait, but wasn't there like picks are worse?
Oh yeah. You have recourse to affirmatives because there are reasons in the literature why we should not get rid of aid to Uganda. I have cut plenty of them. They're also on my wiki if you're curious.
Was there anything else?
Yeah, it's just like the F can't read those versus pigs. Rest your timer. Timing for a moment.
Oh yeah.
How much do you have?
Can I just use your phone?
Yeah, it's fine.
That's two.
Ready?
It doesn't turn off.
No, just keep tapping. I think it might. Just tap it every now and then. Yeah, good. Sort of.
It's T case.
The case too?
Yes.
Is there a timer on your laptop?
I do them both because this one.
Okay.
Yeah. I use it during all speeches.
Alright, cool. I'm ready when you are.
Is that good?
Sorry.
Order on T is which?
Order on T is just like, it'll be a bunch of weighing and overview stuff. You
Where?
can float as like a hefty overview.
On limits or semantics?
Limits.
Okay, sorry, you said T and then
Yeah.
the app.
And then wherever you float the PerfCon, you should have that ready. It'll be like, where do you guys float? Oh yeah, that next to the yeah.
Where it was made.
Okay.
So limits and then the counter.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
With a hefty overview stuff on limits. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that ready?
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Vote negative for limits. Here's the terminal impacts of the limits. It justifies the affirmative having 52 apps, which are all completely different with different occurrences. They justify Uganda, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Ukraine, Bahrain, Honduras, Tajikistan. The list goes on and on. They have a plethora of apps that they get access to that they get fed every single time, which destroys the negative. Because the negative always get read by a bunch of by one of your frontliners, which makes it impossible to ever respond. Which makes it impossible to ever respond against it. This that way is when is that links are different for every single one. Those are universal. This that applies to any one. It makes it impossible for any sort of research burden. They concede that you wear a perceptual advantage argument. Additionally, that says that even if the research burden would be hard for the affirmative, if they have a whole rest after they still get the true perception advantage, they can win. Which means they can win even against the technical line, which outweighs the affirmative benefit, which means that the negative benefit is much better, which destroys the picks argument they go for independently. This argument was conceded out of the 1C, which means they don't get access to the B1s that they're different arguments like fill-in, etc. only apply to specific countries. You think that it would destroy functional limits, but no, the fill-in are different for every single country. E.g., what is the link for China? What is the link for Russia? They all found different countries. So e.g., reasons that they want to reasons that's why they want to intervene in Pakistan. Reasons that's why they want different influences in the area. They're all important to how you make the cease one. Is that it destroys engagement overall. I thought against to every single one, makes it impossible to debate. It's true in our listen. Ishan Shuir will be very, very persuasive, but you should hold him down to the technical line behind. There will be there's empirical case list of how this debate works in the prep and free the firm if it's empirically there. If he did not make arguments and weighing arguments out of the one, you should not let him do no nuclear weighing arguments. The AC1 is that it destroys the AC1 is that it destroys the true or not because he gives you extrapolations of how the true and are debates and then makes it most perceptual way. But you should be able to evaluate arguments on how they deal with on the technical line and to have a complete interpretation of how that would work. Now the limits to be proper weight, limits to be proper weighing between different standards. Limits outweighs all your depth of education and your topical germs versus I don't have a specific product against the app that kills classics. We never debate about topical recycling same content. Outweighs a unique because we don't too much debate topic to get education later. B1 you can context specific education in any other form, but debate is a unique site for classroom where we need the C-point. Without classroom education, it's wrong talking on conclusion about content because we will not see it both sides. Also always because the skills their interp tries to preserve quality of firmness, but absent fair limits, the quality of the app overall is one to see which you can possible for the base where the negative read starts with the negative starts every round behind it. Also always because the true perceptual advantage argument, which destroys your topical chart because it still makes it possible for you to win the fairness arguments. The fairness voter was the only argument you don't get an impact to education. There's no education voter red, which means if I win or the fairness voter is the only one that has that's an implication of how this argument works. It also outweighs because it hijacks all of your topical arguments because it legit limits guarantees that neg has actual ability to engage with the app at all, which means that we are able to hijack exactly what the topical literature is. We go in depth on different comparisons, and you say that I'll go to a line later, but it destroys the argument independently. It outweighs your picks. First probability, not every pick is guaranteed. Not every negative is guaranteed to pick, but other interp guarantees an unlimited topical with negative no ground probability outweighs because it's an impact multiplier there. These aggregates outweighs mine because it would be even worse. I can reserve ability to control links. AC1 is you can type packets with one or three of the B1 is you get to leverage the app against any pick would get like a wall structure like framework, but there's no variability how that can deal with plans with a bunch of those shares, which means you definitely wouldn't give a reason, which means you wouldn't get a reason to fight outweighs. Also outweighs your research argument because we literally impact your research argument just begs the question of how many apps we get the research, how much we get access to, but if we don't have the ability to get access to any of it, if we don't have the ability to get access to different prep and different reasons, so it would be good. It means that we're not able to deal with research, just hijacks made or to have the ability to prep for, which means that there's an accessibility diss to all of his work. His functional limits are your first not responsive. It's about your specific stance, it's about what your interest justifies, not the ambiguity. Second arrow on the side of overloading, you can see the impact of limits. So it covers 30 quickly and atomic for large number of plan on cases like that. Very listed, but also Saudi Arabia, Syria, United Arab Emirates, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Uganda, Laos, Bahrain, Honduras, Tajikistan, Egypt. There's all the other that are defined by Freedom House and by Freedom House and the EIU, which means that there's definitely other authoritarian regimes independently takes out his, which independently takes out his character is for functional limits, so it makes sense. Solvency advocate, etc. They deny huge view and people criticizing your advocate. There's no solvency because he wants to be solvency advocate by still writing about different interpretations of how a topic would work, which is also something that you can work to take it out your topical argument. The topical because there's no link because the after is on the topic, which means that it wouldn't be able to be any interpretation of how we would be able to deal with that debate, which means you wouldn't get generic argument was already ditched, or the generic argument was already responded to, and the one to see that generics don't matter because the one here will always be frontline, which means that would also say which means you'd always be able to put on it anyway, which means you couldn't use it to take it out of the libel out of his historical literature argument. The ace points that are the ace points that the infinite prep you get, which you can see out of the one to see makes so you'll be able to delve within the topic literature to be able to understand who understands what aid is in certain interpretations that would allow him to deal with that specific advantage areas are more important for the debate, and you can get more out of it when you compare it against if it dissents, which always in terms of critical thinking benefit that we can get a debate, which you're not able to try to deal with your structural incentives for debate argument does not matter because it means that you do not have the because it means that other people do not have without the same research are not able to engage in that debate in the same way, which is that you would always be able to win on your picks argument. You can see the ace of point of reasons why you don't get picks, so that you should not be able to that you should not be able to preempt the affirmative as reasons that I should you should not be able to preempt the affirmatives as reasons that I should get access to my arguments, but independently the picks one of this absurd plan means that there's more picks and that doesn't have to be specific crime against case because they have nothing like the states or word pick. Third is that the abuse and inevitable sense for forcing one or research strategic negative would you regardless of framework of theory. For no abuse can be theory against picks. Every single reason why picks is bad is abuse something you still get access to. 5 turn forces that forces strategic act control that can be alleged against specific picks like a util plan can still have created anything instead justifies in favor. Yes, the app will be more hyper specific and always be able to win now independently yeah, go to the perfcon. Go on the perfcon debate proper. This misunderstands how models of debate work. All the turns I made on case under your model debate, e.g. one that defends the state, you do not get to make this argument as a reason, so I take that all my as a reason, so I link to the critique. The critique was conditional independently, which means that no conflict. It is key to show cheating variability on how to test further. They get infinite power, which is one of my advantages on how to deal with it independently. Independently, the premeditated murder argument does not matter because it's under different models. But e.g. if you win your model debate is correct, it means it's independent reason that you'd be able to go in it independently. The perfcon does not have a function over you because if I prove the abuse on a shell, because you can see the entirety of the framers vote, it makes it impossible to vote for you on a reason that perfcon matter because or else Jordan would have been able to cover it, like, which means you don't get it. Look, hold the 2AR to a line between the 1AR and the 2AR. The argument was not explained in a way they shouldn't get it because otherwise it just destroys the 2 and R. They conceded all the way and I win.
Thanks. 2:30 starting. Okay. It'll start on the limit standard where the I meet was, and then it'll be the counterinterp, and then the interpretation.
Sorry, say that one more time.
The one error there was an I meet
Yeah.
at the very bottom. It'll be that, then the counterinterpretation, my counterinterpretation, and then his interpretation.
Okay.
Yep.
So the I meet, and then is it limits? Like
It'll be I meet my research standard, and then your limit standard. Okay.
makes sense.
Are you ready, Mr. Hertzig?
Mm-hmm.
There was not a single 2-NR response to the I meet when the 1 error. The argument is very clear. They've only read evidence that there's no evidence that other authoritarian regimes exist, which means my Uganda is the only authoritarian regime that you know exists. There was also a 1 error explicit preemption that they don't get a new violation in the 2-NR. This argument was not answered, which means you can vote affirmative on the I meet even if they have some random blip in the 2-NR. If they not flag I am answering the I meet and doing the entire blip storm that was the 2-NR, you should vote affirmative very clearly because they've not read evidence that other authoritarian regimes exist besides Uganda, which means I am defending all authoritarian regimes. I meet was very clear, very flagged, and very warranted with an explicit preempted new 2-NR violations that was conceded. Now, I will win the research debate on the counterinterpretation if you don't want to vote affirmative on the I meet. Let's start on the counterinterpretation. Going for the research standard. The next question of the debate is that at the TOC, do you want hard work to be rewarded or affirmatives to only have to defend every single one of those countries and be whole res and lose to negatives that just go for generic arguments? There are two reasons the impact of hard work and research outweighs their impact trends. One is education outweighs on long-term reportability. They conceded the argument that it outweighs on durability because it's the only thing we get from the activity. You should reward hard work. B1 impact turns all the 2 R's thing. Yes, we get 2 AR away. You should evaluate from the 1 and C to the 2 and R. If you had all of the limits explanation, all of that robust depth in the 1 and C, then you can expect the 1 AR to respond to at the level the 2 AR should be able to do, but I should be able to do extrapolation, which answers their arguments. Let's underline their arguments. You get the only argument I really have to answer is that they made a bunch over and over again is that engagement is impossible in a world where they don't have any limits. Yes, you can engage. I'll go through a bunch of mechanisms. Why? One, every affirmative has to defend the United States cutting off military aid, which means you can cut counterplans against the United States. You can cut exec counterplans, Congress counterplans, read those bidirectionary. The War Powers is plenty of topic literature on whether military aid exists. Second, you can cut a pick that could apply to every affirmative. Things like demining aid apply to every affirmative. So what we did against all of these affirmatives is we cut the demining pick and then we went through countries and figured out which ones have landmines and we read that against affirmatives. You can obviously do specific prep and encourage nuanced learning about the topic. Imagine you're approaching an international relations topic where the United States is an actor in military aid. You cannot evaluate military aid in a vacuum. You cannot just say all of it is bad. It wrecks the affirmative and destroys any semblance of education on the topic. They make you want to think that whole res debates are somehow valuable. Yes, you can take a principle stance towards them, but on a topic like that is no way, no one absolutely writes about ending all of military aid, which means they wreck topic coherence. Every blippy line-by-line answer you should compare with this robust 2-hour explanation of what the literature actually says about military aid in the world of this topic. At the TOC, what model of debate do you want to endorse? Now, the limit standard. Yes, our education impacts matter, even if there wasn't an explicit education order. Don't be technocratic about just being like there was only one line. The 1 and C voter was very unclear anyway, and we impact our education, even if we didn't say the word voter in the weighing arguments. I'm only going for functional limits. There are 2 functional limits under all the affirmatives. One is a reason why all of aid is bad. You need to have a defense why ending military aid to that country is good. Only a few affirmatives in the literature have this. Uganda has a reason, Saudi Arabia has a reason, Israel has a reason, and maybe Ukraine has a reason, but none of their affirmatives. Their case list only reached 6 examples in the Twitter, which means you should never have affirmatives. Second is advantages in solvency advocates make sense. They just sort of like say that it's arbitrary without a warrant. The point is that the topic literature should guide how we prep. Even if the links are different, that just rewards hard work and good research. We're impact turning a small number, having a reasonable number of affirmatives, like even 20 or 30 affirmatives. You should be much more okay with that than under limiting the affirmative to 1 affirmative at the Tournament of Champions. Even if it makes engagement slightly harder, 1 affirmative is just such a bad pedagogical law debate on a topic like this that you should vote affirmative. Debate.